But I really do believe that, my stepfather told me this once. He was talking with a writer, with an author, and what he told him was that every day he gets up and he goes in his office and he starts working, whether he feels inspired or not. And I started utilizing that a lot more over the last few years. If I woke up and I just wasn't feeling like I wanted to write, I'd be like, you know what, I'm gonna force myself to do it anyways. And I'd sit in my studio and I'd program a drum beat and start playing a riff or whatever. And eventually, like in a lot of ways, so that's how Silver Tongue was born, was just showing up.
The Desert Tiger Podcast.
Hello, Myles. How's it going?
Good, how are you doing?
I'm talking with Myles Kennedy. I'm doing freaking fantastic.
Right on.
I'm a big Alter Bridge fan. I'm a wrestling fan, so I've been hearing your guys' music for a long time. Pretty much every Monday, every Friday for a while here. So
very cool.
This is a pretty cool moment for me, myself, my friend. So I thank you very, very much for taking the time.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you for your time.
Hey, no worries. And of course, with this time, we're diving behind Alter Bridge's upcoming 7th studio album, Pawns and Kings, my friend. I've been listening to the singles here this morning. From what I can hear, this is a ripper of an album, a 10-track album. So when exactly did you, the Alter Bridge boys, get inside the studio to put this album together?
We were in the studio in March, I believe. Wait, let's see here. It's all such a blur. April. It was like April. We knocked most of this out, and it took about 6 weeks, and here we are.
Wow. So that was earlier this year you guys threw all of this together then? Yeah,
we somehow managed to get it all done. I did a tour with Slash and the Conspirators, and then right as that tour ended, the next day I went to the studio and we started working on this. So it was a pretty busy first 2 quarters this year.
Yeah, and then you had a Myles Kennedy solo tour of the UK like in May or June, I believe. So yeah, it's been a very busy year altogether, I'd say.
Yeah, I think it's been a great summer, because after I finished that run in the UK and Europe, I was like, all right, I'm powering down for the summer. So yeah, it's been a good kind of respite. Now we're gearing back up for the next, for me, really, probably the next 24 months of nonstop craziness. So
hey, I mean, you guys have been back on the saddle again after a couple years of probably taking some time to sit down, write quite a bit of music, take a little bit of break away from that like usual like studio tour, and of course you having a solo project playing in another band, like all of those intersected all together. So like after having like quite a bit of off time, it's probably a little bit different to be getting back into it.
It's good. It's like, look, it's better than the option of the phone never rings, and I've been at that point in life where you're like, what's happening next? So I try never to sound like I'm not grateful for the fact that I get to do all this cool stuff, because, though it's a lot of work and you're away from home so much, you're having the opportunity to play music for people. You can't complain about that.
Absolutely. It's a dream. It's a magical moment. You got to share that energy, that experience. And you guys have quite a few tour dates coming up. I wanted to dive into those soon. But before we get there, I want to dive into a couple of the tracks off of this album. We're recording this interview a few days before the album releases here. And you guys actually put out a teaser this morning for the opening track of the album that's going to be releasing as a single, entitled This Is War. From what we can hear from the song so far, this song sounds like it rips, like it tears things open right off the bat. So what can you tell us about This Is War, my friend?
Yeah, that's an interesting track, because it was one of those songs that probably wouldn't have happened if I'd been lazy one morning. I was essentially just in a sleep, kind of a dream state, and kind of coming to, and I heard the dum, ba, ba, bum, ba, ba, and then the diggity, diggity, and I was like, I don't know what that is, but it's kind of cool, I guess. And then as I started to become, a little more aware, I was like, all right, I think that's the universe trying to drop an idea on me. So I got up, went into the studio and tracked it. And it came together pretty quickly. It was one of those songs that the genesis of it was pretty. It was an inspired morning. Let's just put it that way. And then Mark had a really great idea that we used for the middle section, which is this ferocious riff that I feel like really complements what I brought to the table. So yeah, that was just one of those kind of like on my solo record. I had a song called "The Ides of March," and that's the same thing. It was a dream that inspired it. So that's what this is.
Wow. So, just wake up and rather than laying in bed, it's like, okay, we got to get this down before we forget what is in my mind. Cause I've been there, right?
Yeah. And there are days when especially when you're in the trenches writing, when you're writing a lot, for me, I'll generally wake up hearing something in my head. It could be what I was working on the day before, or it's just like a feedback loop. But occasionally there'll be something totally new and you won't know where it came from. And so I've learned that you take advantage of that and you document it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. You got to take that. I mean, even if it means just having a napkin right beside you. I mean, obviously having phones and notepads makes things a lot easier than probably way back in the day. But either way, get it down.
Yeah, get it down, kids. Get it down.
Of course, like we mentioned, this album is going to be 10 tracks. This is going to be our fourth taste of this album. What else can we expect from this upcoming album, Pawns and Kings here? Is there any unexpected tracks? Is there something that was a little bit challenging for you, my friend?
They all have their challenging moments, I think there's a wonderful song Mark brought in that he sings on, and that's become, and I feel like an important part of the equation. Is integrating what he does, just the same way that we, as the years have gone on, now I play a lot more guitar solos. So it's great having that kind of interplay between the both of us, and it just keeps us. I think keeps us both. On our toes in a way, because when you're just doing one thing, if I'm just singing and playing guitar, or if he's just playing guitar and doing leads. There's something to be said about shifting out of that role, especially when you're playing a live show. It's like, oh, for this next song, Mark's going to sing. And I think it adds a different perspective for the fans as well.
Mm-hmm. It also creates maybe those memorable moments that they can take home where, oh, man, you remember that one song that Tremonti took over? My goodness.
Yeah, that's the sort of thing where, it's really important to kind of tap into your strengths as a band so you can utilize that.
Mm-hmm. And I think one thing that some people don't realize is the incredible vocal capacity that Mark Tremonti actually has.
Yeah, he's a great singer. I knew that back when we first started writing together. He would present an idea, and I was like, why did you want to sing? And he's like, oh, I don't know. He would kind of minimize it, and I was like, you've got to. At the time, I felt like he didn't really understand that he had a really great instrument. The timbre of his voice was, I thought, really good. And he's continued to develop it as the years have gone on. So that's been great. And then when you take what he's now doing with the Sinatra project, now he's crooning as well. And he's also singing, these incredibly, in my opinion, some of the greatest songs ever written, which I think will also influence him as a songwriter. So I think that's a beautiful thing, and it's for a great cause. So it's all good.
Absolutely. If anybody hasn't heard about Tremonti singing Sinatra, definitely go out and support that project. Definitely. For sure. And of course, like we mentioned, you guys are also going to be hitting the road here very soon. I believe you have 25 dates in Europe in November and December. And then once 2023 kicks off, you guys are going on a 3-month run of the United States to get it all started. So after not being able to fully get out there on the road for so long, what's the excitement like to finally get back out there?
It's palpable. Yeah, it's good. I think we're just trying to stay cautiously optimistic because we've had so many records, at least for me, the solo record and the record I did with Slash, where touring was limited because of the state of the world. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that we'll be able to see this one through, and not to mention on Walk the Sky, that was cut short. We only got to tour about half as much as we wanted to, but yeah, I think it's going to be good. I think things are looking good at this point. Pretty damn good.
Heck yeah. So of course, I mean, you've been at this for quite some time. Do you have like a pregame routine before you take the stage?
Yeah, well, it's a lot different than it used to be. I used to warm up for some crazy amount of time, like an hour or something. And now I've kind of figured, I had a tour manager once say, hey, have you ever thought that maybe by warming up for that long, you're kind of blowing your voice out by the time you do the show? And I was like, that's actually a really great point. So yeah, I've learned to kind of, tame that down a little bit, play a lot of guitar and just calm down, just chill, and stay present. Get ready for a fun night of rocking and rolling.
Perfect. Hey, awesome. And it's always going to be a fun night when you were in the crowd rocking out to Alter Bridge, because they always put on an amazing freaking show. I hope to find myself in one of the crowds once you guys get back inside of the United States. I can't wait to hear the rest of this upcoming album, Pawns and Kings. And one thing that I would really love to know, Myles, is through this album cycle, through the process of crafting this new album and finally getting to this moment, how has this process helped you to grow as a person, or what has it taught you about yourself?
It's interesting. I feel like it's just kind of a continuation of what I've been learning for years, which is that as a songwriter, if you show up, that's half the battle. So I used to always think, oh, you wait to be inspired. Like you wait for that dream that will give you the song. But I really do believe that, my stepfather told me this once. He was talking with a writer, with an author, and what he told him was that every day he gets up and he goes in his office and he starts working, whether he feels inspired or not. And I started utilizing that a lot more over the last few years. If I woke up and I just wasn't feeling like I wanted to write, I'd be like, you know what, I'm gonna force myself to do it anyways. And I'd sit in my studio and I'd, program a drum beat and start playing a riff or whatever. And eventually, like in a lot of ways, so that's how Silver Tongue was born, was just showing up. That would not have happened if I'd have been just sitting around waiting. That was through, forcing yourself to get in that creative environment. And then before you know it, things can happen.
Hey man, I mean, things can happen where the top radio track from the album so far, video has over 1 million views. Like, I mean, get out there, do the work, kids.
Right.
Get out there.
Right. Show up. Just show up.
Hey, well, I appreciate you for showing up here for this interview today, my friend. I have one last question for you, and that is, what is something that you're thankful for inside of this world?
Oh man, so much. I'm just extremely thankful for my family, for my wife and our dog and our health. It's pretty simple. We're still kicking and everything's good. A lot to be grateful for.
Hey, well, I appreciate you sharing that with us, as well as the a little bit of this new album, Pawns and Kings. It releases October 14th, which should be the same day as this interview. So if you're listening to this, it's already out. Go out and jam this new album.
Go get it.
Buy your tickets to go see Alter Bridge live. Myles, thank you so much for joining us here today on the DTP.
Thank you for your time.
The Desert Tiger Podcast.
All right, Ambush. Thank you for tuning into today's interview here with Myles Kennedy of Alter Bridge. Like we mentioned, you can find Alter Bridge's new album, Pawns and Kings, right now over on your favorite music streaming service, and I hope that you enjoy what you hear. I hope you also enjoyed what you heard here today on the DTP. Maybe enough so that you decide to go ahead and subscribe to the show. Maybe you want to share today's interview. I would be very thankful to you if you chose to do that. If you do so, please tag the DTP, Myles Kennedy, Alter Bridge, and even me, the Colton G. And of course, that's where you can find me, That's my social tag. How you keep up with my upcoming professional wrestling referee dates. Anything else that's going on inside of my world, go ahead, give me a follow. You can check out our web store. It is www.deserttiger.shop. And of course, you should go out and you should find your roar, my friend. You should take that roar and you should let it out into the world because you are capable of incredible things. Don't you ever forget that. Until next time, my friends, bye-bye.